Hey guys, Ty and Sky here from Ty and Sky's Health Pub, and we are looking for the health topics that matter to you. Follow the link to submit your ideas and we'll get them covered as soon as possible.
Have a good one.
Welcome guys to another episode of Health Bits. I'm joined today with Aaron, our producer. He's filling in for Tyler because Tyler's too busy off in California looking at Donald Duck, you know, right on the street. Like, that's pretty cool, huh?
He just found a guy like dressed up in a costume. He's hanging out with him. His Twitter feed is really weird.
Really?
I don't use Twitter.
Aren't you upset that he just left during, you know, kind of where it's starting to get very cold, and so now it's just he's going off to California just to be like, I'm leaving.
I think he's just living out there now. Like,
Yeah.
he just went and took Lacey with him.
He's never coming back. He's never coming back.
He did.
So he might be back on the show.
All of his stuff.
Yeah, he did.
He went to go be a bum.
Yeah, he gave all his mics and everything to everyone else. He doesn't want to be working on this anymore. No, he should be back pretty soon. You know, he's got to bring back some cool stuff from Hollywood. You know, he better
bring back like Matthew Perry.
Matthew Perry. Man, I'll take anything. Like, bring back the H from the Hollywood sign. You know, anything. The whole thing.
Yeah, somebody vandalized that last year, right?
Yeah, they did actually.
That's the whole sign, or
so
just
funny.
the H? They just hate the H.
Yeah,
no one likes the H. We just want Hollywood. Anyways, moving on. I guess we haven't talked in a little bit, Skylar. How are you?
Oh gosh, life's been going on and on. Besides, you know, working on the podcast. You know, as you work with me, you know, I'm a slacker. But, you know, besides that, though, you know, it's just kind of working on towards, like, more PhD stuff and figuring that out.
Maybe the other doctor.
Yeah, and be the other doctor, not like an MD, but, you know, more of the statistics kind of type of doctor. So, you know, a lot of that stuff, though, there's a lot of intricacies in the health field, you know, where there's different core competencies for people to go into, you know, like not everyone might be a physician, you know, it takes a village, right? So
exactly.
You know, but it's all cool. But you know, there's a lot of stuff to consider. But how about you, Aaron? You know, are you busy producing another episode, or are you working on another one of our casts?
Yeah. Well, I'm always working on our stuff. We always got something going on.
Always something cooking in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. Especially we release 1 or 2 a week all the time. So
right.
Yeah, we have one. Essentially, we're recording this pre-Halloween, but we have one coming out on Halloween. And,
ooh, that sounds spooky.
I know.
As a reminder, make sure you get your flu shots. By the way, we did recently do a video on that, so. You know, just, you know,
yeah,
even if you have to dress up in your Care Bear suits and go out there and get a flu shot, get it done, you know.
Exactly. Well, yeah, even this will be after Halloween, but just wear your costume anyways. Don't tell anyone why.
Just keep it between us. It's just our secret.
It's just us.
But how are you doing, Aaron? Anything new going on with you?
Well, yeah, I mean, actually a couple things. Just kind of floating around. Personal life, just getting a different job and stuff, which I'm pretty excited about. I'll be actually running some sound and lights with the crew for concerts and stuff, which will be awesome. Be late nights and stuff like that again, but that would be great. But actually not so good. Recently, my neighbor passed away. Like,
oh wow!
Really recently.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I didn't get to talk to him a lot, which sucks, because he was a pretty cool guy. He was in his 40s, and so it's like really soon. But he actually died of a heart attack, essentially. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was, I guess I think according to the paramedics, like he didn't struggle at all. Like, it was like pretty much instant. So I think he had a heart attack, and then he basically fell over. He was gone before he hit the floor, and so whatever exactly that is. Do you know? I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah. This actually falls in. I've actually done a lot of work involving cardiac arrest. And the thing about heart attacks, and for those of you that don't know actually what a heart attack is, essentially a heart attack occurs when your arteries prevent oxygen to provide, blood to circulate to the rest of your body, essentially. So your heart kind of starts working. So it's more of a circulatory problem going on. Sometimes a heart attack, it's interesting about this case because majority of heart attacks end up not necessarily resulting in cardiac arrest. Like they don't, like in this case, it shifted to because you were saying that in this situation he had a heart attack, right? And then he went into cardiac arrest, and then essentially, and then I guess I gotta fill in folks on what cardiac arrest is too, right? There's so much to come about this, but cardiac arrest. So essentially, what happens is if you went into a heart attack in this situation. So what sounds like what happened is he went into he had a heart attack, which resulted in him having a cardiac arrest. And essentially, though, the cardiac arrest, because of lack of blood circulating, like a cardiac arrest is usually more of a electrical malfunction in your heart. So it causes an arrhythmia, which is more of an irregular heartbeat. So you might have, when you're like pumping iron or something, and you're like, your heartbeat you might feel your heartbeat, race a little bit, or
I haven't been to the gym in a long time.
No, you haven't. You're lazy, man.
Hard
You're lazy.
work. What is that? No, I know what you mean. No, like I used to work out. But yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, when you're going really at it, you got that high heart rate, really, right?
Right,
and
right.
It's just kind of really, really working hard. You can just feel the thump.
Yeah, and basically that's kind of like the very bare bones of kind of what's going on. So it's kind of like an issue then with the arrhythmia is that your heart is no longer pumping at a regular rate. And so a heart attack, is dealing with issues of blood circulation. So your heart is being, essentially not being able to allow for blood to process your body properly. And so that's resulting into cardiac arrest. And so what I wanted to ask about this situation for you then, do you happen to know if he was alone or was anyone present when he had a heart attack?
Not in the room. So no one saw it happen. Essentially unfortunately his young son, he was, I think he's around 10. But he was in the house and he discovered him. But that was kind of it. He wasn't, I think he said something to his dad, and then he went to go off in his room for only a little bit, came back, and then found him. And so, all we know is this, it just happened really quickly. So, and like I said, it didn't look like he struggled at all. So it was probably pretty instant.
Yeah, it sounds like what happened then is sometimes it can cause what's called you might hear a physician if you're ever for any of you guys out there that go to a hospital or anything like that, or you're dealing with any cardiovascular issues, you may have heard the term thrown around sudden cardiac death. And that's really just more of a proper term of saying, death that's caused due to failure to treat a cardiac arrest. So sort of one of the largest things that's important about a cardiac arrest and treatment of a cardiac arrest, because going into cardiac arrest isn't necessarily life-ending. Essentially what's amazing about it is that they can resuscitate someone. They can bring someone back from the state of, medically dead. And they could bring them back. And in a lot of cases, these people can come back. In certain situations, they can come back with full function even, depending on the response. And so, kind of like you were saying, his son, was just gone for just a little bit. So he actually didn't witness the cardiac arrest occur.
No.
So and the reason why I use that terminology is even though he didn't even witness the heart attack happen. So the heart attack, to kind of just keep people up on, because it's a lot of stuff to cover, the heart attack leads into the cardiac arrest, which results in the sudden cardiac death.
It's like definitely it's a cause and effect. Like that's just a succession of what happens if you were like to break it down. Some like we just kind of generally say he had a heart attack, but there's actually all these processes that are actually happening.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a really good point, actually, because we actually, sometimes we'll say, like, he had a heart attack, and then sometimes you might hear this in movies, too. Like, I'm sorry, but your, friend, family, or whatever had a heart attack. And generally, though, a lot of the times, it's alluded to that it resulted in death. But that's not always proper, because sometimes people can have a heart attack and
right?
still live.
Yeah, it's like not even, like, resuscitated, right? Like people can have a heart attack and then just be like, ugh.
Right. They might not even, because it could be an issue. They're not clinically dead after a heart attack, because they could have a heart attack and then an EMS crew could arrive on time, like paramedics or an EMT could arrive on time to actually help treat the patient. And generally they're gonna go to like a cardiologist, but and that's a doctor that specializes in cardiovascular health, in cardiology specifically. But, most of the time they're going to go directly to an emergency room to get that kind of initial work done, especially if they're very likely of going into cardiac arrest, because they're kind of prepping for cardiac arrest more so than a heart attack.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
For cardiac arrest, can you have cardiac arrest and not have a heart attack before? Like, can that?
Yes, absolutely.
Really? How?
Yes, you could go into cardiac arrest. Heart attacks are just one of the leading causes of going into cardiac arrest. A cardiac arrest could be caused by blunt force trauma. It could be caused by electricity flowing, like say if you got electrocuted, or say if you were shot. So any sort of situation, it's kind of interesting because generally, any situation that could fatally, like I guess result in someone dying, the situation prior to them passing away, and not being able to be resuscitated is like the cardiac arrest event. So say, for example, if, and there's certain things that could occur. So say, for example, if you were shot, depending where you are shot, it could bring you into cardiac arrest. And so you're at that point, you're no longer breathing. Your heart has stopped functioning, essentially. And depending on the situation, there's a whole array of different things that could occur for medical personnel that treat you. And what's interesting about it is some of those wounds prevent people from being able to treat a cardiac arrest properly. And I guess kind of to first kind of go into it, you might have seen in the movies CPR, or like you might have seen it on the street if you've seen someone, or you might have learned it as part of learning how to swim or something like that.
Even when I worked for the home theater company, they did it before I got there, but they used to require that someone every year, everyone got trained on CPR.
It's so useful. It really is.
Yeah, because like there was nothing that we were doing that really, yeah, like you think of CPR for swimming and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And so CPR, so essentially just to let you know, CPR is cardiopulmonary resuscitation. And essentially how CPR is performed is that someone will take, both palms and put them at the base of someone's sternum, and they'll perform compressions by pushing into the base of the sternum, and they will push down into the base of the sternum at a rate of about 100 beats per minute. Now, what you're probably like, that's a lot of exercise for someone. Like a lot.
Is it? Well, 100 BPMs isn't terribly fast.
It's not so much that how fast it is. It's the amount of time you could be doing it for.
Like a whole song's worth?
Oh, right. Yeah, it depends. So let me throw out a situation for you.
Okay.
say you're with a friend at the lake house, or I don't have a lake house, I'm not but like say you're out at the lake or something, you're out at the dock, and your friend just collapses to the ground. You're not sure why. They go unconscious. You check for a pulse. You don't feel anything. So you call 911. At this point, generally, a lot of people that are not CPR certified will just kind of check up on the patient and stay there, and they'll call the police, and they'll try to get an ambulance out to the person.
Yeah, that'd be me.
Right. Yeah, but it's actually super important for survival rates that bystanders, and a bystander is defined as someone who witnesses the event, or someone who comes along that's not necessarily medical personnel on the onset of the event, that they begin CPR. So say a normal person walking by, you say you don't know CPR, but another person's walking by and witnesses this, and you've called the police, but this other person comes up and says, I'm certified in CPR, and then what you'll see is they'll start putting their hands, on, first they'll probably clear out any clothing out of the way, if there is, because it could make it difficult. It also makes it easier for EMS crews later when they arrive. But generally what they'll focus on is on getting those compressions in. And the important thing about these compressions is that, as a little sidebar, the funny trick about it is that, so there are certain songs out there that are related to, having to have 100 beats per minute when you start CPR. So have you ever heard of the song like "Staying Alive" by the Bee Gees? Like, staying alive, staying alive. Like
I don't
that
know.
song?
It's not ringing the bell. You should sing the whole thing to me right now.
No.
Just to jog my memory, Skylar. Come on.
Well, I know some other songs too. Like, ironically, also there's "Sweet Home Alabama" is also 100 beats per minute.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so is "Bop" by Hanson.
Oh God, that's probably, I don't know. Don't torture yourself. It's already a stressful situation enough. Don't sing bop to yourself.
Yeah, just "Staying Alive" is actually a very is pretty much like the most recognized one to remember 100 beats per minute, because it's also a really good message. It's staying alive,
It's also on. Yeah. Is that why they pick it?
Yes, that's exactly why the
God.
American Heart Association kind of sponsors that one more. Yeah.
Way to be punny about it.
Yep.
It's also, I was gonna say, it's I remember that from watching The Office. They have that scene with the doll. I think it's in the first season. But Michael just can't get it right, and he kept screwing with the doll. And Dwight gets involved, and he gets really intense about it, and he like stabs it with a hunting knife and cuts its face off.
I remember this. Yeah,
it's horrifying.
Yeah, don't do that. That's highly not recommended at all. You will significantly lower your chances of a successful resuscitation if you engage in that.
Yeah. That was quite the episode.
So you're humming. You've called the police, right? You're humming the Bee Gees for this person. They're doing some CPR, and at this point, a couple of things could happen. Either the CPR could result in the person having a successful resuscitation.
Pretty sweet. I don't know. I've never revived someone back to life, but I can't imagine that I would feel pretty awesome. Like,
oh yeah, no, it's probably a great feeling. I haven't myself been involved in a situation like that, but I've had the experience of talking to probably, I don't know, like dozens of EMS personnel about these cardiac arrest events that they go out on, and it's really something else, honestly. Like, just they're always excited about a potential save.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine.
Or someone being able to live, longer than expected, because every second counts, especially in these events.
Yeah, well, I can imagine it's like super stressful thinking that, it's like this person is in need of help, and they could die if I don't do anything.
And some people go into shock.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some people very rarely does that happen, but some people just kind of either have like maybe like a mild panic attack possibly, or sometimes people just are not capable, or they become indisposed and they cannot give proper compressions. And actually not being able to give proper CPR could be, like, especially if it's really bad CPR, could be detrimental, depending. Like, there's research out on it, kind of like a debate there, because, it's generally, if you have someone who's like a bystander, like, they're not always going to be doing 100 beats per minute on the mark, like, that's just not going to happen. They're going to be kind of fluctuating.
I'm sure not strict about it.
Right,
I mean,
right.
Like, it can be around, right?
Right. It can be as long as it's in that ballpark. It's you're doing something, which is more than like doing that gives a good chance for the person to have a fighting chance. And so people that especially in this situation, out at the dock, right? It's the person is lucky they're with someone, especially in this event, right? The reason why it's so important that CPR itself is important is because CPR essentially allows for the reduction, like, essentially you have a little bit of oxygen left in your body, right? And you're kind of helping the brain not deteriorate. Like, you're giving a person extra time to possibly be resuscitated. It's a lot. It's very important. Like, every single, like, minute that goes by reduces the person's chance of a successful resuscitation. And this is minutes.
Yeah. So I suppose, like, that's kind of your point too, of having CPR training be more spread out. Like, if everybody knew it,
right? Because if, especially say if you're in a situation like if you were there with your friend, right, and that other person wasn't there, that person could be waiting 10 minutes or more to have someone perform CPR.
So yeah, I mean, most people, they call 911 if they don't know CPR themselves, and they're waiting for like the EMT to get there, or paramedic or whatever to get there. Like, first off, like, what do they do right away? Because they obviously have, they're arriving in ambulances or whatever. They're going to have other stuff, right? They're not just going to do the pumping motion and everything like that.
Generally, the person from dispatch that you're on the phone with on a 911 call will walk you through some of the stuff that you need to do for the patient. So most of the time you're probably going to end up laying them flat, either on the ground, or you're going to want to make sure, and also a couple of other things is you also want to make sure, this might sound a little bit odd, but it's very important. You actually also want to tilt the neck back a little bit, like, because if someone is in certain cases, someone may asphyxiate, or they might, because of the vomit that is produced, someone could, like, even in a cardiac arrest event, like, they might be resuscitated, but they might go back in because of any sort of issue. They could just choke again or anything like that.
Is that a result of, like you said, there's vomit? Like, that's a result of the CPR or of cardiac arrest?
It could be the initial cause of the cardiac arrest, because there's numerous things that could have caused the cardiac arrest. Drug overdose is one of them too.
There just might be that.
Yeah, it could be. It's just the possibility. It's just to make sure that because if you don't know, like, if you're not the medical person, it's good proper form to just prepare to do that. It basically opens up the airway to, like, prevent, it just helps the person recover. And so essentially in this situation, what you'll do then is the dispatcher will talk you through. There are certain situations, in some states it depends. Actually, it even comes down to counties sometime. A county, like, dispatch may walk through what's called dispatch-assisted CPR. And that's where you're not CPR certified, but they will explain to you right then and there what CPR is, and they will walk you through doing it over the phone.
That's one hell of a crash course.
Yeah, they'll give you the emergency crash course, like, all right, you're the pilot now, like, you
Plane's going down,
you gotta do this.
You are in charge. We're all waiting on you.
Right.
No pressure.
And it's a huge deal. And a lot of people can be afraid to do that because they feel like if it's their fault if, there's not a positive outcome. And but it's so important that you try. Because you trying in that moment could actually save a life. Like
there's nothing
just
nothing
looking
to lose,
at some
right?
of the,
I mean, it's like as long as they'll walk you through and stuff like that. Or if you're already trained in it, it's like, what you mean? You're just helping. Is like they need somebody, or else they will die. So you trying to do something can't be bad, right?
Right. It's never been, like. There's certain things you could do that would be bad, but there's stuff that's it's avoiding it's pretty much following common sense. Like you don't want to start like if you think that tickling someone is gonna do anything, or or if you're like if you think that like if you believe in some type of weird medicine, where you're like, oh, I heard about this once, if I just slap them around a few times, I could do something.
So don't just make it up. As you go.
Yeah, don't make stuff up on the spot. Just do CPR, and also, back in the day they used to actually recommend also giving breaths through the mouth, and they still do that in some forms.
They had that in the Sandlot movie when that kid was pretending to drown.
Right. And the thing is they actually just refer to it as hands only CPR. So
is that just the commonplace now? They're like, just don't even bother breathing.
Yeah, because it's not the most pressing thing. Like the pressing thing in that situation is getting the compressions out.
For cardiac arrest, anyways. Yeah,
right.
As far as that's concerned. So if it's not even close to a drowning situation, because that's probably more
right.
to getting air in the lungs probably for drowning.
Yeah, it's definitely like that. It's to get air in the lungs, and then you're hoping that getting air in the lungs will force someone to cough up any water that might be clogging the system.
Yeah, so if you're like at Denny's, like there's no reason to do that. Probably. Anyways,
that's true.
They just need somebody certified at Denny's who can do CPR just all the time.
That's right. And I think and there's a lot of like extra stuff that goes on into what medical personnel will do during a cardiac arrest. But for now, I'll just keep it kind of more into what people do.
This is like more of a basic
what
level,
you can do,
basically.
Yeah, because there's more advanced stuff, and I'd love to go into that. And we'll probably go into that in another episode.
Yeah, this is just like a lot of stuff. It sounds like.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Especially because it gets into more medical terminology about rhythms and why certain things are the way they are. But for this situation, just to kind of finish the analogy of like kind of the example. So you're out there, someone's doing CPR, and another person brings up what's called they bring up this device that's yellow, and they're holding it, and they're like, all right, I have this. And you're like, what is this? And they say it's an AED, and you're like, well, what's that, right? And so, have you seen in the movies where people are shocked for like, they're like, clear, shock, and they're like, they're looking at the monitor, and there's no rhythm on the monitor, and so they're
usually performed by a dashing doctor.
Yeah, it's on like House or something. They're like, clear, all right, we gotta shock him, we gotta bring him back.
Yeah, it's so dramatic.
Yeah, so they kind of have that, except for as in terms of shock pads, they're just kind of like pads that just kind of like stick to someone.
Yeah, they haven't had those paddles in a long time, right?
Yeah, they don't. Paddles are kind of. I mean, some places still use them, but generally they use patches now instead. I don't know why I said pads, but yeah, but they're actually just patches because they kind of stick. And so what ends up happening is with an automated external defibrillator, a lot of these you might find like in a university, or like you might find them in common places. You might have seen them around. They're pretty common because they are something that anyone can pick up and use.
You already said what AED stands for?
Yeah, it's an automatic external defibrillator. That's a mouthful. so most people just use AED.
Defibrillator. Yeah, it's hard to say. Is that what they just say?
Defibrillator. It's tough.
I can't even say it. I'm such a mush mouth, like naturally. It's just hard for me to enunciate and just entirely. I don't know how people understand me.
You're just
so
like,
I would just say AED.
Yeah.
Get the AED. Because if I try to say get the defibrillator, they're like not gonna.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, "Are you? What's going on? Like, what are we supposed to get?"
I think we need to get one for him too.
Yeah. And I guess the short thing about the AED is how it works is, it does not have a monitor, so it doesn't have a thing showing the rhythm. What it will do though is you have to in some there's certain ways that like you pretty much have to stop CPR with an AED, and in some cases, and majority of the cases actually, to analyze the rhythm. And I'll get into the specifics on another episode about the types of rhythms and all that stuff. But depending
the rhythms of the heartbeats.
Right. So basically, how the heart rhythm. So like essentially, like remember going back, the cardiac arrest is basically kind of like an arrhythmia has happened. There's an irregular heartbeat or no heartbeat at all. And so in this situation, there's also electrical activity happening in your heart. And depending on if your rhythm is shockable or not, you'll shock. So it kind of self-fulfilling, right? Oh, it's a shockable rhythm. Usually, if you have a shockable rhythm, you'll actually get shocked by these pads, by these patches. So what happens is when you basically grab this AED, right, and it starts walking and talking to you, like it starts talking to you, and tells you how to like use it. It's basically like kind of like having a toy. It's pretty cool.
I've never seen one in action. So.
Oh, it's fun. Take one out. No, I'm just kidding. Don't like go taking them out of like.
It's fun. Practice on your little brother.
But definitely, if they're really interesting. They're designed to be like ease of access. They're found in most public places, universities, hospitals. Some restaurants carry them, depending, or busy places of business, and they're extremely useful. Sometimes in certain situations, they won't be used to. They'll analyze the rhythm and it'll say analyzing, and they'll say shocking, and it's important that you stay away from when that person's getting shocked. Don't like put your hand on the patch, and be like, I want to get shocked too, like
yeah. I suppose you just like want to comfort them, like hold their hand or something, or like
don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't touch them at all. I mean, if you ever gotten static electricity, it's like you touch somebody and then that I'm sure times that
this
by
will be
like
1,000. Do you want to also go into cardiac arrest potentially? Like, do you want to have, because you're basically you might end up like. That could happen.
Yeah.
You could also be, and that would be the worst thing. Like the person that's sent out to help you has now gone into cardiac arrest. Like it's just.
I suppose that's why they say clear, right? Like clear away.
Right, clear. Like remove all your parts away from the patient because the whole patient's going to be like jolts of electricity are going through them.
Yeah.
And so it could cause you to have an arrhythmia. But basically though, so you put this thing on, and then depending on whether or not it's going to shock or not, and you basically continue to do CPR until an ambulance crew arrives.
Yeah. Like I was kind of wondering. Yeah, that's why it's automatic. It does everything, right? Like it's not like, I mean, it's walking it through and telling you and stuff like that what you need to do. But it's like it's not like you have to be trained in it so much beforehand to be able to use it.
Right. It's kind of like general knowledge, because not everyone's is going to be a medical trained professional, and not everyone's going to just be necessarily CPR certified. Well, now maybe
I don't know.
Maybe
we
a little
can
bit
get everybody to be CPR certified. I mean, I don't know. It makes me want to go because I don't know. I don't know. What I've seen in movies and television is the only thing that I've known to do, which is completely, obviously non-technical at all. And but I guess that's nice to know, even if I don't go out and get CPR certified tomorrow, is that if I call 911 right away, if I don't know what I'm doing and haven't been trained in it, they can help me, at least walk me through it, so there's at least that.
Right. And depending, they might not have dispatch aided CPR. There could be someone and depending on where you're at, too, has a huge deal. So, like, if you're out in the rural, there's different challenges, but there's also newfound advantages that are being, like, discovered recently. It's kind of an exciting time for cardiac arrest. I know that's kind of odd to say,
Yeah.
but it's causing these really weird issues that we as mankind have never dealt with before, and it's bringing up a lot of philosophical and religious discussions on how far are we going with bringing people back from dead, essentially. That's always been my huge interest about cardiac arrest, is because in certain cases we do bring people back from the dead.
And some people have stories to tell afterwards, which we
absolutely.
will not go down that rabbit hole. Which that's not even scientific at all. That'd be fun to talk
Right.
about, but not on this show.
Yeah, but they usually go on, like I even heard of like people going on to live very exciting lives past the event, because it's kind of like being given a second chance.
I suppose that's like a
giving
very spiritual
and
moment.
for a lot of EMS crews, it's just being able to give people peace of mind, like even time with their families, with their loved ones, another year, like that's 365 days that you were given. Like that's just crazy. Like this is time. Like even in some of these situations, a lot of cases though, like especially if someone's just getting pretty old, depending, they might have complications that will not allow them to recover properly, so they may eventually still pass away, but if they are resuscitated, there could be a situation where they're given this opportunity to say final good farewells and things of that nature. Even if it's like a few days, it's still time, and like every minute is precious in that situation.
That's true. Well, I mean, if I got certified, at least I would be able to feel more confident, at least trying to help somebody like that until professionals arrived.
Yeah, you could directly be responsible for you'd be involved in saving someone's life.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
How do I do that? How do I go?
So to get CPR certified, you're gonna want to take a class. Generally, it's just generally denoted as a CPR class, and sometimes some of your local rec centers might host them, or you can check out the American Heart Association to find a list of places where. And we'll link you guys to that as well. But for a link of places where you can find for classes, a lot of time these classes are also grouped with first aid, which is also very helpful. So like how to do tourniquets and stuff like that, and how to just address small stuff like wounds. Like it's very useful. A lot of it goes hand in hand. And I guess also as a disclaimer as well, for any of this type of medical advice, please do consult with proper AHA guidelines before you actually decide to just go off and do CPR on your own without any certification.
Yeah, no, we definitely,
because the classes will go into other stuff too about how certain situations you won't do CPR.
Yeah.
And just a short example is if someone was shot or stabbed in the chest, you might not perform CPR, because you doing that before that is addressed would result in more blood loss.
Yeah, I suppose you'd be pushing it out of them.
Right, and that's just not that's not helping anyone. So
most likely,
a lot of it's common sense, but it's actually it's very important.
Well, just in case, I mean, sometimes in those crazy emergency situations, it's like a smart, logical person, their common sense could just go completely out the window just because of the stress level, right?
Right.
I would say, like, if it was me, and I would probably just want to, if I had no idea what to do, if I wasn't trained on what is going on, I'd probably just call 911 and just be like, this is what's happening. What can I do? Or, obviously send somebody first.
Right.
Send somebody now. And then, in the meantime, tell me what to do. Which they'll do anyways,
Yeah,
I'm sure. Right.
I just can't stress enough. It's so important. Like, if you ever work around it, I mean, I just really encourage everyone I know that if they can get CPR certified, if they can take the time to do it, you never know when that situation could come up. You could be the person that helps save a life. You could be around when a family member collapses, and your initial aid can make all the difference in the world. It could give people the time they need for proper care to arrive, and that's really, you can't put a price on life. So it's just a really cool thing. CPR is becoming more advanced. There's even more electronical stuff going on, but I'll get into that at a later time for sure, because it's just the technology and everything involved in it is really cool, and it's really changing the game.
I suppose like even the AED, that is such an advancement from just like the old just having person to person CPR.
Right, you could get shocked without a medical personnel on station. That's amazing. Like that's a pretty good advancement in technology for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I know even in my hometown, they had. I'm from small town North Dakota. They have basically none of that. It's too bad something bad had to happen for this to happen. So a kid was in track and his heart stopped and he was gone before he hit the ground. Like another situation like that, but because they didn't have anything, they couldn't even possibly think to help him.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have a defibrillator or an AED, and they ended up like the parents, I think, became huge advocates of it, and the school and everything. Like they all got this big amount of support, and they ended up around the area basically doing a campaign to get all these in every school. I mean, pretty much anywhere they could. And so there's now a wider spread. Yeah, like I said, it's too bad something bad had to happen in order to do it. But now in my hometown and the surrounding area, there should be an AED at every single school.
Yeah, it's a shame, that it takes usually disaster for certain things to change, for people to really grasp the importance of something. You don't become really a strong advocate until you are directly involved in it in some capacity. Even just, you could become a strong advocate just by grazing it. Like if you know of someone, like me, even hearing about this story, makes me more like I've already been interested in it before for a long time, but this, hearing about this story makes me, like reaffirms my, idea that I need to be constantly CPR certified, being up and up on like the latest trends of it and what's the proper stuff to do.
I mean, it's hard to be, activists and full on to every single possible thing out there. I mean, that would just be impossible. There's just too much stuff. And maybe that's one reason why people end up being more involved when something bad happens, is that it gives them more of a reason. But at the same time, a lot of heart stuff that affects so many people. It's a very common thing. It's especially like men and women, of all races. It's essentially having these AEDs around and just being aware of cardiac arrest,
Yeah.
right? That's just kind of like borderless. It's all over the place. So it's in, just the general public's best interest, right, to be more informed on it.
Oh yeah, almost any situation that involves someone going into cardiac arrest in a public event, like having an AED on hand, or there's a lot. Just the chances of survival are increased drastically by not only having an AED on hand, but also having a bystander who knows CPR. That gives someone, like, the combination of those two things gives someone the best chance of survival prior to EMS interaction.
We could have that everywhere. You could be just confident walking down the street. If I have cardiac arrest right now, is that there's going to be a likely chance that somebody around me is going to know how to do CPR or know where that device is that can help me and possibly save my life.
It gives you peace of mind, too, to be able to calm down the situation for anyone present. So if you know how to perform CPR and there's someone who is present there and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do, you can help, make space. You know what to do with the person until help arrives. And, especially if you have multiple people that know how to do CPR, you can effectively swap out who does CPR. You can take turns doing it so you don't get exhausted. It's just beneficial in so many ways to have most people to know CPR. It just really helps out a lot, for sure. Like I know I overstate it so much, but it's it's just truly it's a game changer. I think there's so many situations where someone goes into cardiac arrest, and that's just the difference. Like, we're talking about the end of someone's life. This is, and it's just unfortunate because situations where someone would have been found or CPR would have started early, there's cases that could have been turned around. But if someone goes into cardiac arrest and no one's there, or no one wants to do CPR, and for whatever reason there's a delay and it takes an EMS crew to get out there super late, that's, if after a certain amount of time there's just no way you can go out. They have like amazing stories of stuff that's happened before, but they're very rare. Of someone being down for prolonged periods of time. So it's really just, it makes all the difference in the world. So, please do consider getting certified in CPR.
Go get it. Like you said, just to repeat those ways, right? It's essentially checking out the American Heart Association. Like, they have more information on where to go and what to do. CPR. Well, actually, even just typing it, I'll just type it in right now. Check. But it's American Heart Association. They just into Google, and immediately, it's like heart.org, and then they have official AAH courses. There's even, it's like right on the front page, because no one goes past the second page. And so it's just right there in your face, and it's like CPR, like corporate training and, healthcare provider training.
Yeah, it would be like CPR,
like, it's just right there.
But it's part of the American Heart Association, yeah.
Yeah, you literally just type that into Google, and it will pop up. You'd be able to. It looks like you'd just be able to click to it really easily.
Yeah.
So it's not that hard to find the information. Super easy.
Yeah, it's just a simple Google search, and that's all you got to do, and you can get started. And if you know anyone that's CPR certified, talk to them about it. Like, and also talking to your family about getting CPR certified, and especially if you have any family members or friends that have a likelihood of possibly having a heart attack or going into cardiac arrest, being prepared for this is just huge. It brings a little bit of extra comfort for if that situation comes, you'll be able to handle it, and you'll also be able to so the key thing to that, just always remember the Bee Gees, Staying Alive, or if you want to, Bop by Hanson, and you'll be good to go.
If you want to torture yourself. All right, well, maybe. That's secretly my favorite song. I try to put a lot of tough face. All right, so yeah, like, talk about get CPR certified. I think I might have to just go, because I'm probably the only one of us that isn't. You have to be, right?
I'm up to certify again, to recertify.
You gotta redo it.
You have to constantly.
I guess that's a good question. How many times is it every year?
I think it's. Oh gosh, I can't remember exactly if it's like every year or if it's like every like 2 years or something.
All you know is that you. How do you know that you have to get recertified?
There's like eventually an expiration for it.
You have like a card?
Yeah, you get a card and all that stuff.
Okay, so it tells you.
Yeah, basically, like, it's 2 years, I think. Yeah, renewal, like, allows you to maintain your credentials for additional 2 years.
Oh, 2 years.
I thought it was 2. I couldn't remember. I was like, a year? Yeah. I was like, oh, crap, then I'd have to go back. But not that I hate going back to learn, but...
Yeah. No, I mean, 2 years, I mean, it's a long time and not a long time, I'd say, So it's you're not like going in every month to have to.
Oh yeah, no, and like I mean, and it's not like you have to necessarily practice CPR all the time. You might, like, if you think about it, you might take a pillow and you might be like, all right, time to do compressions, the base of the sternum, and you might start doing it, and then you'll get worn out and be like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, it's the old trick. Practice on your pillow first. Anyways, all right. So, I mean, is that kind of wrap up an overview?
Yeah.
Anyways,
yeah.
I mean, that's your main takeaway.
That's pretty much like without getting into the very advanced stuff that if a family gets involved in, with EMS crew arriving on scene, because you could just have a resuscitation before they arrive. But depending on that, there's just a lot more stuff to the EMS side of things, which includes all the drugs or all the different kinds of medications that someone might be given during cardiac arrest.
That sounds like a whole other episode we gotta do.
It's a lot of fun.
Oh man. Yeah, we'll just have to keep picking your brain over it, especially, and we can get Tyler involved and give us the doctor perspective.
Yeah,
for sure.
it should be pretty. I think him and I will be able to have some like really like hopefully some intricate discussion on that, because he'll know about the medications that I'm talking about, and he'll be like, oh yeah,
teaser. Oh yeah. So, all right. So yep, go get certified. Go ahead and Google American Heart Association. You can get a bunch more info. You can find out where the classes are, all that kind of stuff. For us, anyways, if you want to get more stuff like this, if you haven't already, go on Facebook, click that like button, subscribe any way that you can. If you're listening on a podcast platform, you can find us on YouTube too, whatever, wherever you need to go. But just check out our Facebook page. We're really active on that. So you can see awesome memes and awesome news that we find.
They come for the memes, but they stay for the beans. No, I don't know.
Exactly.
But please give us any sort of feedback or any sort of other topics that you want to see. As always, we welcome any feedback. Also, feel free to message us on our Facebook page as well if you're just feeling bored. just be like, hey, what's up?
Exactly.
All right, guys, and thank you guys so much for joining us on another episode of Health Pits. We really enjoyed your time here today, and we hope to hear from you guys soon.
Hello, Ty and Sky from Ty and Sky's Health Hub here. Are you an event organizer looking for a way to take your event to the next level? Well, we also do live podcast events with real health experts about the health topics that matter to your community. If you're interested in having us come out, follow the link and let us know.
Have a good one.